So let me stay this way. Jesus, there's freedom in your...
Welcome to the Warriors Way UCAN Studios. Our warrior this week is Mark Mandell. Say good morning.
Hey, good morning, Isaac.
All right, before we get into him, if you've not gone to spiritualwarfareuNit.com, if you know someone that's struggling, needs food, clothes, baby formula, mental health, drug rehabilitation, AA, lawyers, anything like that, go to spiritualwarfareuNit.com, click on struggling, and go and check out. And if you're good, but you know someone else is struggling, you can be the help that they need, so help us, help you, help them. When we get started with Mark, he's got a website if you want to check him out. It is MMANDELL, Mandell, Mandell at fb-firm.com.
That's my email.
That's your email?
Yeah. But the bottom line is, and it's up on the screen.
Oh, you Google. That's right.
Fausone.
So this is a weird one. So if you guys go to your Google bar on your phone while we're watching, Fausone, Fausone and Bohn, B-O-H-N. You can Google that on Northfield. You can click on all the stuff that they do. You can check that out while we're talking. All right. So sorry about that on the website. So good morning. How are we doing?
Great. Thanks for having me,
All
Isaac.
right. So you are a lawyer. Just give a brief overview for the people so they kind of know what your job is, so know what we're getting into.
Sounds good. Predominantly, I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I've been practicing for over 25 years. I've also been a municipal prosecutor at multiple municipalities, so I know both sides of the fence, the prosecution and the defense. And historically, I did family law for about 15 to 20 years. The last 5 or 7, I'll still do some cases, but I sort of built a team underneath me. 3 of those team members are on the circuit court bench down in Wayne County.
Nice.
So I'm starting to get back a little into family law. It's a tough racket, dealing with people's emotions, and I always say love and hate are sort of the same emotion.
Emotions are messy, man.
And I think, quite honestly, when we talk a little longer today, I'm probably in a better position to deal with the people's highs and lows in their emotions. But I've also done personal injury. And then my firm, Fausone-Bohn, which you have up there, predominantly we're corporate lawyers handling business litigation. It's really a one-stop shop also, probate, estates, wills, personal injury. And
nice.
I've been there for 20 of my 25 years and love it. It's been a great place. It's located in Northville.
All right, perfect. And we have you on because you have a great story. So I kind of want to get to your story. And so, tell everybody where you grew up.
All right. Well, I basically lived only in 2 communities my whole life. Northville, and then to Farmington Hills. Graduated from North Farmington. Love that school.
Hold on. You grew up in...
I grew up in Northville, moved to Farmington Hills.
All right, when did that happen?
I lived in Northville from when my dad got out of the Navy in 69 to 78, and then Farmington Hills to about mid-90s. Graduated from North Farmington.
Were you a sports guy? What was high school life for you?
Yes, I was. I played high school football, played a couple of years at Springfield College in Massachusetts, rather a small inside linebacker, and then I transferred to Michigan State, graduated from Thomas Cooley.
Okay.
And to finish your question, I moved back to Northville. So Northville, Farmington Hills, 53 years.
Yeah, but you just can't run through the whole circle. I mean, we got to kind of find out what happened. So your parents married, divorced,
My parents are still married, yes.
Yeah, how long have they been married?
I know that because we celebrated it a month ago. They've been married 60 years.
No kidding. Dude, that is almost an impossible mark nowadays, right? 60 years, that's amazing. All right, so you said your dad was a Navy guy. What did he do in the Navy?
Well, that's an interesting story. In 1967, during the Tet Offensive, there was a shortage of doctors, and my dad had just started practicing as an orthopedic surgeon from Providence, Rhode Island, living out here, doing his residency, and they had a specific call-up of 250 surgeons because unfortunately the body count after the Tet Offensive was really rising.
Right.
He's a Stars and Stripes guy. He would have gone over to Vietnam in a heartbeat. He already had my sister. My mom was pregnant, so he was stationed down in the Patuxent Naval Base in Maryland.
Okay. All right, so your dad was patriotic, mom So they married early, huh? I mean, married 60 years, so.
Yes, back then it would have been early compared to nowadays. But my mom and dad are in 85, and they're in great shape. I think my mom's probably acts more like a 45-year-older, not an 85-year-older, which is a tribute to her wisdom.
So this background and being this way, growing up as a kid, like what was like one of the main inputs that kind of helped you be who you are today as you were growing up? Was there anything specific when you were growing up in like early childhood or high school that your parents really instilled on you, certain things that you use even to this day? Or is it just as you're going, you just learn the process?
You know, looking back in retrospect, my dad's always, I'm a talker. That's why I went to law school, BSer, all that good stuff. But my dad was a classic lead by example kind of guy. Never really had to motivate me too much, just lead by example. And, you know, I hate to play the like we're getting old card, but just even 35 years ago, growing up in the 80s was different. My mom was a school teacher, but by that time, stay at home. So she raised me. I made mistakes. I felt the back of her hand. So
right. I always knew that was one of the options, right? And as a guy, when it's your mom, there's nothing you can do. You just got to take that whooping.
Yeah.
Yeah, nowadays it's weird, right?
I was very blessed.
All right, so you go to high school, you go to college. Why, like you always wanted to be a lawyer? Like, how did that work?
I didn't. I originally went out east to Springfield College to play football with my intent of just being a teacher. That's all I wanted to do.
Okay.
In some respects, not in some respects, I feel like I am a teacher, but by way of through law, and I coach high school football.
Right.
So, no, I went to be a school teacher and a football coach, and I wish I had an interesting story to tell you how I ended up practicing law, but I don't. And
so what's the reality of it? You were playing football, you're going to be a teacher, and then you decided...
Well, I got really good grades when I went to school out east. I didn't have the greatest grades in high school, and I really wanted to go to a big school, so I transferred back to Michigan State.
Okay.
And the rest is history.
And then when you transferred, you decided, you know what, I think I'm going to be a lawyer? That's how that worked?
Yes.
All right, and the lawyer was because...
Well, I wish I could tell you that there was, some motivating.
Epiphany or
right. No, it was more like you can't go wrong being a lawyer.
Can't lose if you're a lawyer.
Right. When I went into law school, I think my intent was to be a prosecutor, and I did work in the Lapeer County Prosecutor's Office, which, it's
right
across the county line up here. And so I did like the prosecution, but I love doing criminal defense.
All right.
I see it more as 100% helping people.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that part, but we can't skip all the steps to get to that part.
That sounds good to me.
So you graduated. What year did you graduate college in Michigan State?
That would have been 91.
Okay, so 1991, and then did you go to work for Lapeer directly out of college?
After law school. So I graduated law school probably in 1996, I think, and 96, 97. And
what was the 5 years for?
Well, that's interesting. I moved down to Washington, D.C., and worked for Joe Nolenberger, congressman out of, I think he was in Bloomfield.
Okay.
Great guy. And all I wanted to do, I really loved politics back then, for the noble purposes. I think there was a degree of naiveness of wanting to change the world for the better.
Sure.
And
for the beat down of the grind of life.
Exactly. Well, I realize that now. I don't want anything to do with it. And then I worked at a law firm to make sure that I did want to be an attorney. So by the time I went to law school in the second or third year, I was doing an internship with the Lapeer County Prosecutor's Office. And I believe we were talking about it. Byron, is it Conchu, is still the prosecutor there? And I had
great
the utmost
dude, right?
Great guy.
Great guy. Really, really gentle.
Yes.
Human being. Yeah. And so you do that. So you said it was 96. Is there anything during that time, like, was there a defining moment, like you're getting the politics and you're like, oh my God, I definitely don't want to do this, because a lot of people come to that Jesus moment where it's like, yeah, this is not my jam. Was there anything defining between 91 and 96 as you were moving off into the being a prosecutor?
No, if anything, it probably started making me more interested in being an elected official. I lived down in D.C. for a year or so, came back here, started running some political campaigns. John Shaw, who worked in the Bush administration, was the youngest chief of staff for Lynn Rivers in the Department of Labor. I was hired to run his campaign against Lynn Rivers, who was replacing Bill Ford, good UAW guy, Bill Ford. Yeah, I wasn't a Lynn Rivers fan, and obviously I was running the campaign against her. And my goal was to win that race and move back down to D.C. and probably look past practicing law. Lost the race. L. Brooks Patterson was a family friend. I really didn't know him personally, but my parents spoke to him, said, why don't you go talk to Brooks? He can give you some career advice. And he sat down, and now there's a man that gave me some great career advice. He looked at me, he said, in a very self-deprecating way, like, Mark, anybody can be a politician. Anybody really can be the county executive. But if I ever lose my job as a county executive, I could always go back and practice law. So my recommendation to you is go to law school. There's a million different avenues you can get into. I'm having that discussion with my oldest son right now, who's thinking about going to law school. It's an invaluable education. You never think.
It's a guaranteed fallback is what you're saying.
Exactly.
All right. So, you're understanding, you're going through, so you experienced some things, tested the waters on some stuff, and then decided, I really like doing law at its whole, and then we're going to get to the criminal part. So you get to, so it was 96, you said you went to Lapeer?
I'd say it was 96, 97.
All right. And then what was that like? I was like, this is what I was looking for, or just something I'm doing? Like, how did that?
I loved it, yeah.
Yeah?
And if I could have gone to work for Lapeer, you're making me think about it, Isaac. I believe they did offer me a job, but where I was living, and in my mind to permanently uproot, granted it's only about 75 miles from where I was at.
Right.
So no, but I love that office. They were great people, great mentors.
All right, and you're how old at this time? 96, 97?
Probably 27.
All right, so you're 27, and you decide what? Turn down.
I was working for another job. I was working 2 jobs at the time to continue to figure it all out, both sides of the equation, prosecution, defense, all that, for a guy named John McNally downriver in Trenton. He's got an interesting story. His brother's the current judge downriver. His father founded the court. There's a statute down in Brownstown. And their grandfather was the last Republican, of all things, Wayne County prosecutor back in the 50s. So in a good old-fashioned Irish boys, and he was a great mentor, and he gave me some interesting advice. He's like, you go in the prosecutor's office, but you got to make a choice. Either you're going to do it
or not
for 30 years, but if you think you're going there for 5, 7, 8 years and then come out, you're going to be wasting your time. Learn how to try some cases, learn that side of the equation, but you could be really more effective on the private side, as well as, the certain degree, there was some financial incentive, as opposed to the prosecutor's
Well, Mark,
office.
that's a perfect time. We got to go to our first break. I told you this goes quick. If you guys have not gone to Spiritual Warfare Unit to like, share, and subscribe, please do that now. Sit tight. We'll be right back. Taking a quick break from our podcast, I wanted to let you know about our life application program that we have for churches and nonprofits in the area that are trying to find programming that they can use in case the corona shuts you down and you're not able to get in. You go to spiritualwarfareunit.com, you click on our episodes, and you can check out our programs for as little as $29.99 a month to make sure that we're still getting the word out to those people that need it. Now, back to the program. All right, welcome back to the Warrior's Way. Our warrior this week is Mark Mandell from Fausone-Bohn, and he was just finishing up some good advice he had got. So 27, 28, didn't want to waste time on the one side of the law. It's probably more financially supportive on the criminal side, but you believe in your heart that is really where the law is fought, is on the criminal side then, as far as defending your clients.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I just felt that I could do there's a little misnomer out here about criminal defense attorneys.
Yeah.
You go through, and I'm going to digress for a moment, in Google lawyers, most people, they either have a guy or a girl, right? Like I got somebody, or they're going to, do the Google search or whatever.
Right.
And what I found out is, you Google, you're going to see things like fights for your rights.
Yeah.
We'll take it to trial. That's just really not how the system works. Almost everybody that comes into the office, there's some form of culpability, right?
Okay.
Like I'll be the first one to tell you, I would never plead somebody that's guilty, or I'm sorry, that's innocent. Plead them guilty. If they want a trial, they're going to get a trial. But when they come into my office, it's really so much more about damage control. So when we say defense, it's not denying that often that something happened. It's actually, I like to be more of damage control,
Right.
which sort of one of the reasons why we're here also today to talk about substance abuse.
Yeah, you're like reading my mind is beautiful.
Of course,
so.
I have that ability. You can tell that.
It's
my superpower.
Because I was going to ask, during this time now, personally, where are you at in your life? Were you a partier? Were you married? Were you dating? Were you dealing with any kind of struggles with the stress of life? Like, what was that part of going on?
Yes. When I started practicing law, I think maybe I practiced 6 months up to a year and then gotten married. So I'm married. Let's just call it 30 years old. The stress is enormous. Now, I'm not working for Fausone-Bohn yet. I'm working downriver for the previous lawyer I mentioned. And I'm working 75 to 80 hours. It's classic. Like, they are grinding me. And I'm doing everything.
So give us an eye shot of this grind. Like, in my mind, I see the guy in his white shirt with stacks of files and going to, like, in my mind, is that a good accurate?
Well, we both have the same superpower because you're reading my mind, Isaac.
Okay, so you're just drowning paperwork. You got to do all the junk work, right, basically?
I'd get up at probably 4:45, get to the office by 6:30, dictate. I like dictating. It's old school, but it works. I could think better that way. Dictaphone, and dictate all my work that I'm supposed to be doing in the office, and grab a big briefcase, grab probably 7 to 8 files, like on a Friday at Motion Call downtown Detroit or up here in Flint or wherever, and I'm juggling 5 or 6 judges in 6 or 7 different topics, everything from municipal law to blight issues. To criminal, and extremely stressful. And I look back in retrospect, 100%. Like, I could put a tie on, part my hair, brush my teeth, try to look handsome and articulate. Did not have the coping skills to handle.
So what did you do
stress.
for stress relief? Like,
Drink.
So drinking would you go to?
Absolutely.
All right. When did that start, do you think?
Well,
Pre-marriage? I'd imagine.
well,
College.
college, come on. Isaac, you didn't have me on the show to say I started drinking in college. No, 8th grade, started to dabble with it with my buddies a little bit. Once every couple months. I mean, it was truly experimental.
Right.
But by 9th grade, myself, as well as all my best friends, it was like, okay, we're going to party on a Saturday. And then throughout high school, it just increased. The amount, clearly, based upon, developing a tolerance. I wasn't drinking on Monday or Tuesday.
So, like, when did you realize, oh, crap, I might have an issue? Like, when did that happen?
Early in college.
Really?
Because,
wow, good for you.
And this is... recognizing it and doing something about it, as you know, Isaac, can be a lifelong battle, which it has been, just is what it is.
Yeah.
When it catches you, it catches you. But I would go back, as you know, obviously, I work with people in substance abuse. I've got my own issues with it historically as it relates to alcohol. But I find it more interesting to see my predisposition to getting addicted in the first place.
Okay.
And I look back in retrospect at a very young age, 6th grade maybe, and I'd turn off the light in my room, and sometimes I'd have to go back 10, 15 times to make sure the light was off. So there was obviously some obsessive compulsive issues. And to segue, like to just fast forward 40 years, I think maybe you didn't mention it, but I coached high school football for 20 years. I'm taking a year off right now, break.
Yeah.
But before every game, I could change my coaching outfit 7 or 8 times. It was debilitating.
Wow.
OCD, and there's a mental algorithm there, obviously, that has a predisposition that whether it was going to be alcohol, in my case, alcohol.
Yeah.
But I always like to say this to clients. I feel like we all have some form of addiction.
Absolutely.
The CEO of Ford Motor Company, maybe they're not a big drinker, but I'll tell you what, they're addicted to work.
Yeah.
The gambling addiction, the drugs addiction, the sex. I mean, to me, it's all part of our brains. This isn't scientific. I'm just putting it in layman terms.
Yeah.
Where is it going to manifest itself? My dad, wake up at 4 a.m, work all day, come home, have dinner with us, go down in the basement, work all day. Have I ever seen him drunk? No. So but a workaholic. He was a workaholic. Yeah, exactly.
Which is its own addiction.
Right.
So you're early in your relationship. You're stressed. You're getting all the junk work. How long did that work before it started to not work? Like, how long was that?
Right after 9/11, and that was obviously 2 days ago.
3-4 years.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay.
Yeah. And
it's like early 30s, I think.
Right.
All right.
In the practice of law, I've always found it interesting. They say dentists have a big issue with drinking and substance abuse.
Dentists.
Professionally, yeah. But lawyers, I think, are generally considered the top.
Lawyers don't know. This is why I want to have you on the show, because lawyers tend to have a bad reputation just out of the fact that they're a lawyer, and people tend. But you generally help people. So getting you on here so people can see you as a person that helps people who happens to be a lawyer, and getting that's what's important, because you had a life and you struggled and you get it, right? That's what makes this story interesting. So you're in your early 30s.
If I can interrupt you on that.
Yeah.
Before I forget, vulnerability. I assume your listeners, majority of them, if they've ever had a lawyer, and if they liked their lawyer, that lawyer showed vulnerability and empathy, as opposed to hiring the person that's going to fight for your rights. As long as you give them $20,000, they'll file any motion.
Well, sure.
And those are the type of lawyers that give the profession a bad rep. Yeah. But there are so many. The good ones far exceed.
Like, I know, like my guy who fought for me when I was going through disability and all that stuff. And I remember one of the things that he talked about, quick sideline, is we went in there and we got our settlement or whatever. And he said, I'll try to talk to doctors to take less money. And I said, are you going to take less money? He said, well, no. And I said, well, then let them get paid. And he sat back in his chair and he's like, you're the only person that's ever done that in 20 years. I was like, man, I'm trying to get better. I'm not going to shortchange my doctors, and then they don't want to see me, right? And he was so respected by that. He said, anytime anybody asks you something, you call me, and I'll take them because you say so. And that is how him and I got to be really good friends. And that's the kind of guy you come across as, right?
Right.
And so that's what we're trying to get to here. So,
why I say the vulnerability. Yeah. There's only so much I'm going to disclose publicly about my own life and privately. Yeah. But when you sit down with a client, if you can't throw out an empathetic branch or a vulnerability branch based upon your own experiences in life, then how can you impress upon your client your concerns and caring and offer them good advice?
Well, and why would they listen if they can't relate to you?
Right.
Right. And that's where I think your struggles makes perfect sense, because you get it. So when someone's coming into your position, you go, yeah, I get it. I had stress. I had bad stress practices. I have OCD. I struggle with these things. I get it. So in your early 30s, you're dealing with this. So go ahead.
If I could segue on that.
Yeah.
And you're the perfect person to talk about it, Isaac. Thank you for your service. was it the Marines or the Army?
Navy.
Navy.
All
All
right.
right.
Worked with
Well,
all
I'm a Navy
Marines.
brat, so good.
Yeah.
I'm in good company.
That's right.
But what was my point?
Well, I'm not sure. It was your segue.
I know.
You wrote something down.
No, it wasn't that Isaac's great and Dave, the producer, does a good job.
Yeah, my great and powerful laws. We were just getting into your 30s, the stress, the 75, 80 hours a week. And
Yeah, exactly. So PTSD, is subjective.
Okay.
And trauma is subjective. And I see that with a lot of my clients. I see that with friends of mine, I got one buddy of mine that has a temper tantrum over anything that goes wrong, and it's so minute, and you just he starts losing me. But 80 hours of work a week, meeting multiple clients, family law, hate, love between a husband and a wife, criminal issues, people concerned that they may be going to jail, this or that.
Right.
And then you throw in why we're even here to talk, this big umbrella of substance abuse, whatever it may be.
Yep.
I have had to listen, speak on behalf, gut-wrenching stories of people's lives.
Yeah.
Still to this day, you develop a hardened exterior.
You have
to
to.
it. Right. And in my case, generally speaking, I don't think the frequency really matters when dealing with alcohol abuse.
Yeah.
The person off the street will be like, well, he didn't drink 7 days a week and all that. And I've been out with him a million times, and he's just a funny guy. Maybe, all right. But as soon as Thursday came or Friday, it was immediate time to drink, reward, and check out.
Right. Time to shut the brain off.
Right. And one major consequence of that is whatever personal issues, good, bad, or indifferent, I never want to talk to people about my own issues. Because I got to hear them.
You got to hear everybody else's.
Right.
The last thing I want to do is do the same thing.
So my mistress became alcohol.
Yeah. Well, this, again, perfect time to take a break. You sit tight. If you haven't gone to spiritualwarfareunit.com, please do that. Like, share, and subscribe. Sit tight. We'll be right back.
I'm really impressed with the teachings that Isaac has been bringing to us, as this is all based from Proverbs.
I like it because it's simple, and it doesn't matter who you are. It's very easy to understand and apply to your life.
It points out, my bad parts, and but it's showing me how to do the good parts. And, I'm trying to apply that and, make a better life for myself, because I'm tired of where I've been.
It's impacted a lot of the guys as they continue to talk and ask questions after the meetings, as they speak to one another regarding the meeting and the messages and the topics that are being brought up, which are down-to-earth topics of situations and things that we live with on a day-to-day basis.
He takes the Bible and he breaks it down into simple terms and where you can understand. And like I said before, sometimes a lot of churches, even the Salvation Army, sometimes we start using these big words that people don't understand, like even saying someone got saved. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean when you say someone got saved? And it's accepting Jesus into your heart. So it's like words like that we use that people don't understand.
It's just very interesting how he points out, the different things of, the sin part, and then he comes back with the, how to make it better, and he just points it out. It's there. I didn't know all this stuff was in there, but now that he's pointing it out, it's like, wow, I guess if you really dig into the Bible, you find these things.
This is a daily moral standards that we can live by, that the teachings are coming from. And honestly, we can take verse by verse as what he's done, and pretty much he's done the hard work for us and now laying it out so that we have an easier understanding.
There's some people who don't like to be in Bible classes, but this one seems to get their attention.
I was like, no way. So people that are talking about breaking the rules use their fingers to speak to each other. And that's what gangs do to communicate from point A to point B. It's almost like this has been in the Bible for 2,000 years. And people feel like it's a new thing. That is unbelievable, isn't it? That things that are happening in your life today are in here from 2,000 years ago. That's very weird.
You love me too much and let me stay this way. Jesus, there's freedom in your name.
Hey, it's Aaron with you.
All right, welcome back to the Warrior's Way. Our warrior this week, Mark Mandell from Fausone-Bohn, and he was just talking about the stresses of the job and having to deal with everybody else's emotional response and the stress of that, and just want to shut that off. And I got to be honest, man, it didn't even dawn on me the effect of the emotions of other people's stuff on top of doing the job. I didn't even think about it. But that actually affects you emotionally, and that's got to be an overload all the time on top of the job, right?
And it's a negative current coming
Right.
at you. At the end, you get some positivity, and that's why I do what I do, and I keep coming back.
Right.
But, you're dealing with people's problems.
So there's gotta be some stuff from some of your clients that you learned, or the stories were funny or great. You gotta have some great stories in there.
Yeah, one, what I could say now about practicing law as opposed to why I got into it.
Absolutely.
Oh, geez. I'm like a petri dish of just learning from other people's problems. And I believe it's given me an infinite amount of wisdom.
Yeah.
And enough wisdom to know that I'm just touching the surface.
Wow.
Just getting into changing perspectives.
So give us a little wisdom, something you learned about someone else's mistakes where you're like, definitely don't do that. There's gotta be some good ones in there. Come on. You can be vague enough to say it, right?
Well, I will say this. I don't go to AA. I listen to a lot of podcasts all the time, podcasts like yours as well, which is an excellent podcast. By the way, did I tell you I love that logo?
You did say the UCAN K9 logo. It's pretty awesome.
And I read it as detective team, but it's detection team.
Detection.
K9. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. But it would be the step of recognizing that we're powerless.
All right. Explain that so
Absolutely.
people understand what you mean.
Well, I've spent, since my mid-30s, they say you'll have to go 9 or 10 times of trying sobriety before you really get it.
Wow.
I'm up there in the numbers
Okay.
over the years.
Sure.
And I think I'm approaching more of like the end of the rope.
Good for you.
Where I feel very confident in my sobriety. But without having those prior attempts that failed.
Sure.
And through those, I have fully recognized that if we have an addiction problem, which I do as it relates to alcohol, I'm powerless over it. I always I don't want to preach to the choir here or to your listeners, but they probably have heard like the word control and enjoy. Have you heard that analogy? Okay. And I think that one fits me perfect. Can I go out and control alcohol? To me, it'd be being forced to have the proverbial 2 drinks at dinner.
Right.
Okay, so I'm controlling it. Am I enjoying it? No way. Not at all.
You're like, I get 2 of these and it's
Right, and 2, no, it's just the opposite. And in my case, if I'm enjoying it, which now we're going to have to multiply that 2 times,
Right. 4 or 6.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. A little higher.
Yeah.
Isaac, a little higher, but then I can't control it.
Right.
But I can enjoy it. If I'm enjoying it, I can't control it.
So it's either torture or it's got you.
Yeah.
Gosh, dude. It's tough.
Exactly. And then also giving yourself over to a higher power, in my case, God. I'm a man of Christian faith, Catholic. And understanding it all, which also can help with, the shame aspects and the guilt aspects and all of that stuff. And the older I get through my clients and stuff, it's changed my perspective. So those maybe are 2 examples to give you. But But as it relates to interesting cases, well, some of them are like actually funny. There's a judge down in Northville, Plymouth, James Plakus, great guy. And him and I were both young guns practicing for about 5 years. This was before he was a judge. And I'm the prosecutor down in Sumter Township. And a dog had eaten another dog. And
Wait.
Yes.
Ate the dog.
Well, come on. It's okay. Bit him.
Oh,
but
okay.
it sounds better for Isaac. I'm trying to help you on your TikTok. It sounds better for
The dog ate the dog.
Clickbait.
Yeah.
Put it out there on Canine Detection
Detection. Dog eat
Don't have your
dog
canine
world.
eaten.
It's a dog eat dog world.
It was a big dog
And
biting a
dog.
little dog, but
right.
it did do a number on the little dog. So
right.
I was tasked with, and I'm a dog lover, but we're going to put the dog down. The dog, was deemed a danger. And Jim Plakus calls me up, and I had known of him, he had known of me, just small talk, and he's like, hey, Mandell, I need a favor of you. You got to give me a stay of execution on the dog. I just
For
got
the
brought
dog.
in on this case.
Okay.
And I'm like, Jim, $100,000 of law school, another X dollars at Michigan State, and you know what? All I'm doing is this nickel and dime type of work, but I've got an attorney that's asking for a stay of execution. I'm going to give it to you. I gave him the stay of execution. Some local newspapers covered the case. I played it up for the media. I said the dog has drank blood, and so it'll thirst for more blood.
Nice.
And like any two good lawyers, we cut a deal, and we banished the dog from Wayne County to Washtenaw because I didn't want to put the dog down. So that was a funny story.
Banished the dog.
Right. That literally was a funny story. But an interesting case I had was Sam Riddle, the civil rights activist down in Detroit. I was his attorney, coincided with all the Detroit corruption, albeit he didn't have anything to do much with Detroit corruption. And that case was covered by everybody. It was on Fox News, CNN, and all of that stuff. He was great. He's had, I think he grew up maybe up here in Flint. But he's a fascinating man. And I don't believe he drinks anymore either. But I tried that case. It was on national TV. And just like this desk you have that we're sitting in front of, the desk is in between you and I sat on that desk with an unloaded shotgun in a courtroom and walked through the steps of the case that it would be impractical for him to have ever pointed a shotgun.
Yeah.
And I do know I came home and my wife was like, oh, my God, have you seen the, preamble for the news today?
Oh,
and I'm
no.
like, I haven't, but I'm a little nervous about it because I know what I did in court. And she's like, yeah, you lied on the prosecutor's table with a shotgun and pointed it at everybody. And I said, but it was unloaded. And I remember Channel 7 was like, riveting courtroom theatrics. And they found him guilty, which I felt was unfortunate. But that was an interesting story. Okay, I'll give you one more. There's a place called Three Cedars Farm. It's a great place. All your listeners, it's down in Salem Township.
Okay.
West of Northville. It's a great farm. They do a great Christmas stuff, indoors, outdoors, in the barn. And the owner of the barn was a client of mine. He calls me up, and he's like, I got a problem. The township wants to close me down. They're not going to let me do my annual Christmas event, What
was the deal?
It was just nickel and dime township politics. He wasn't he was doing banquets in the barn and he didn't have a permit, but just like any good Green Acres, right? Every politician was holding their fundraiser in the barn, but yet when they didn't like something, they're like, you don't have a permit.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, Gary, I'll take care of it. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, Channel 2, 4, and 7 are coming over to my barn right now to interview me because I'm going to close down my huge Christmas celebration. It'd almost be like
Bronner's.
Right,
Yeah,
Bronner's, but there's cider and hay. And hey, if you live in Western Wayne County, or for that matter, Southeast Michigan, people all go to it.
Yeah.
And interesting story, but tie a little alcohol in it. I'm sitting with a buddy at a bar because it's 4:15.
Yeah.
and this would be the 5 o'clock news, just ordered a glass of wine. This had to be 15 years ago. And I get the phone call, and I just got done with, that big Sam Riddle case. I don't search the media. I'm not really interested. I'm interested in coaching football and helping people with their problems. And I get the call, and I tell my buddy, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't really feel like going. I feel like having cocktails." And that just sort of shows you, I already wanted to check out from an extremely long week, let alone, see, when you got to go live on local television, no matter what, your heart's going to pump a little bit. And I said, I better do the right thing. I'm like, "Gary, I'll be out there." And as I'm driving out there, he's like, "What are you going to say?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it. I'll just figure it out when I get there." So we go live.
Wing it.
Exactly. But I've been doing it a lot. The truth is, I'm thinking of talking points as I'm driving out to his farm.
Right.
And I think it was Rod Maloney with Channel 4 did the interview. And he's like, "All right, Mark, we're going to ask you about what this is going to do to the community. Shut it down." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, "Rod, just turn on the camera and turn the lights on. I'll take care of the rest." And the lights and camera came on, and I gave out a shout out to both my two children. I'm like, "It's been a Christmas tradition, and their elementary school is only 2 miles down the road, and they're not going to be able to come." And the moral of this story is Salem Township is and I looked right into the camera like I am right now, and I said, "Salem Township is the Grinch that stole Christmas for all of us parents and children in Western Wayne County." Boom, they reopened it real quick.
Oh my gosh, the Grinch. What a perfect setup.
Yeah, you could Google that, by the way. Just type in. You can.
I want to Google that now. We're going to have to Google that. I bet you Google Grinch.
Salem Township.
Salem Township Grinch. I bet you that's on there. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. So we have to take another break, man.
All right.
This is such
Good
a great
stuff.
story. You guys sit tight. Please go to spiritualwarfareunit.com. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll be right back.
With UCAN, just out here today at the Valley Area Agency on Aging event, Senior Power Day. It's been really cool. We haven't been in the senior world very long, and I know it always plays a part in our world. So we're here today to connect with that senior community and kind of talk about the proper use, misuse, storage, and disposal of medications, making sure that they're not only are they using them as prescribed, but also disposing them as needed. So we're also bringing a multitude of services here that I'm looking at that allow us to connect and expand on our senior care initiative. So it was twofold: share some information with the seniors that were out here, but also make some connection with those who are servicing the senior community to be able to expand our network of our senior initiative and make some connectivity. So we've met the folks from Valley Area Agency on Aging specifically, have some cool ideas already to work with them. We'll talk to McLaren and Genesee Health Plan as far as the Medicaid sign-ups and things like that. Veterans are here. The Genesee County Services for Veterans is here. So really have some great connectivity going. Good start to our senior care. A great day here. There's a lot of people here. There's been probably 200 to 300 people here. We've been here since 9, so it's been a rewarding event. Most people do look at our table and say addiction and don't look, but there's been those handful that do come over to us and say specifically, "Hey, can you come to this event, or can you come speak to us here or there?" And that's kind of what we're after. We're really after the focus on how we can continually expand our reach into this community. So it's been a good day. We look forward to continuing the rest of the day, and we'll circle back again another time. Thanks again.
All right. Welcome back to the Warriors Way. This is our last section with Mark Mandell from Fausone-Bohn out of Northville, and you were just giving some excellent stories. That Grinch story, it's actually there on Google, guys, so you're going to have to check that out. That's hilarious. And so you said now you do basically criminal law, is that right?
Yeah, so about 10 years ago, the stress of the family law.
And how long did you do that family law?
A good 15 years. From day one, I started practicing.
Man, and that pressure cooker.
Yeah, and it's economy proof. Marriages fail. And here's why I was not good at that. I'm going to be quick on family law because I don't want to spend too much time. I still handle some cases, but the biggest reason why is you sit down with two people, and I touched on it earlier in the interview. Love and hate, the emotions are so similar. And look all you got to do is grab it, rip it in two. You take your half, your wife takes her half, and then you may have some parenting time issues or alimony.
Right.
But they just want to fight. And I'm not a good businessman at that. I'm not going to take money to promote like unreasonable positions. And in family law, there's a lot of those men organizations fighting for men rights. So, well, that's BS. They're fighting for unreasonable positions to justify the dollar figure. So,
gotcha. So that's why you left, which seems like an excellent reason, especially after having the experience.
And the criminal is the bottom line. I like helping people, especially on that topic. And I heard a good thing on a podcast last night, actually. Oh, it was by Jordan Peterson.
Love that dude.
It's me too. God, he's so profound.
So smart.
And in essence, he said 50% of all violent crime is substance abuse related, and the 50% of deaths across the world, I believe, are substance abuse related.
Substance abuse, really?
Yeah, and if you took that away, you would like wipe off. I mean, we all read the newspaper. I do it for a living, but so much, and I'm getting away from the drunk driving in the drug crimes, but domestic violence, crimes of violence, murders, all of it. Seldomly is it done sober.
So you think that the push of it is going to something to make it okay for that action because they're upset?
Well, no, I think the abuse, the substance abuse leads to
creates the action.
Absolutely.
Man,
absolutely.
Right. I didn't 50%.
Yeah.
Wow. So if we would just control what we're ingesting into our body to check out, that just tells you how much people want to check out and how much stress people are under.
More than ever. And I had a relapse a couple of years ago during COVID.
Yeah.
And I thought at the time, well, I'm fine. I'm going to try to moderate. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it caught me.
Yeah.
For 9 months. But you see it. Like the COVID, there's nothing normal out there right now.
Yeah,
we're back to normal, but it's not normal. It's worse than ever.
Well, it's like it's pretend normal. It's like it's normal, but where's the next shoe going to drop, right? And you're sitting there, it's like everything's fine, but is it fine? Is it coming back? Is it not coming back? And then the stress that did relationships, man, it just blew relationships. The biggest issue they had during COVID was domestic violence.
I could see it.
Because everybody's stuck at the house together, and there's nowhere to go and nothing to do.
I think, all right, I do believe this in my heart. You are going to see more people like yourself, sober warriors, I'll call it, right? Because of, if there's a lot of positives about social media, but I tend to see the negative.
Sure.
But it used to be 15 years ago, you had to go to an AA physical meeting or check yourself into rehab.
Yep.
In the world of sober podcasts, right? They're springing up everywhere, and people can talk, and you can talk while you're sitting on your couch, or taking a walk and listening to this show right now.
Yep.
And I see an enormous subculture growing as the pendulum, I believe, will start to swing back. How far this country swings back, I'm just not talking about substance abuse.
Sure.
I'm talking about maybe to what could be perceived as righteous behavior. But it's coming, and I think it's these type of venues that are opening people's eyes to, God. I try to limit my Fox News now, but you put it on. There's a million pharmacy commercials. Pick the drug you want. Yeah, and then the alcohol abuse.
Yep.
It's just
I agree with you. I think the steps in what we're doing, because we're just trying to help people. We're trying to show people there's people care. And we don't have an agenda. We just want to help you, and you're worth fighting for. Like, you have purpose. And when you do, as a lawyer coming from a criminal aspect, you're fighting for those people to help them understand. Like, the best thing about a mistake is not the mistake, but what you do after. Right? What is the decision? Now you screwed up. You made a mistake. All right, crap. Now what? Do you go back to the circle that got you into that, or do you make decisions to make different choices, right? And so that's why I love addicts, because they're just wanting to be numb. They just want to check out for a little while, but they're really looking for peace. Like, that's literally what they're looking for, right? And it's like, God's actually that answer and you settle for numb. Like, you were close, but you really want that peace where you can shut it off at night and you know it's going to be all right. And like I tell people, if that didn't work, I just wouldn't do it because it'd be stupid.
Well, I like this observation. Like, if I was holding out my hands for the people that aren't viewing this, in my left hand, my right hand, in the middle, we have what I would call our zone of tolerance. Mm-hmm. You get too far to the left, too far to the right, and this becomes subjective again. And it depends what the topic may be.
Sure.
But you fall out of that zone of tolerance, all right? It's intolerable. And my intolerable pain, all right, maybe something as simple as losing a football game where you'd be like, big deal, you lost a football game.
Right. And you just...
Right. Your intolerable feelings could be everything from something that happened when you woke up in the morning.
Right.
And the addict's going to want to medicate to bring himself back into that zone where they can tolerate
life.
Right.
You know, and the crazy part about all...
And that's a hyperactive nervous system.
A hyperactive nervous system?
Nervous system, our actual nervous system.
No kidding.
I want you to do some research on that. Have me back on that. That's a great
I will
topic.
have you back on here.
Hey, we've all seen that, those, how people handle things. Your zone of tolerance could be extremely wide. You're a military guy. Mm-hmm. You probably learned through coping mechanisms how to deal with certain things where I'd be like, oh my God, I can never deal with what that happened. By the same token, you may hear some of the things that, God, Mark, every day for 9 hours a day, you got to listen to clients bitch about what's going on.
Yeah, I would probably beat my head on a rock.
Right, but I build my zone of tolerance like a marathon runner. But the moment I walk out and I have to think about it, like, oh God, I got to numb myself.
Yeah. I got to shut all that down.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is, the thing about people is we do stuff. Everybody wants their life maintenance, house, car, kids, job, whatever that level is they set for themselves, right? And then the stress of attaining that level of life, that life, liberty, and the pursuit of it's like you're always in pursuit of happiness, but you never catch it, and it just seems like so much of our society is in that point. And in my life, I know if I'm pointing fingers at people, I need to look at me and go, why are the people around me, why am I blaming them for my negative actions? What am I doing to create that, right? And then what am I using to stress relief? I gotta go get high, I gotta go get drunk, I gotta go get in a fight, I gotta decompress by doing something, negative,
Explaining away a victimhood mentality through bad actions.
Right. And you either...
Or wrong actions. I don't like the word bad.
Yeah, well... Negative action.
Negative, yeah.
Right? And you can either be a victim or you can be a survivor, but it's your choice. You choose that outcome. And many people choose to be victims when you can be a survivor. You can go through a mistake and not understand how to handle something and do it incorrectly because that's what you understand, and then learn and create a different outcome, right? And your life is like a representation of that. And then on top of that, you're actually a lawyer that cares about people, that wants to do good work. And it's really hard not to see that. And so when Bob told me I got to talk to you, I was like, all right, awesome, right? So you finished up, so in your late 30s, and I just want to get this done. How many cases do you think you do in a year?
Hundreds. Over 100, that's for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since I have a lawyer sitting here, I'm dying to ask this question. So being I was a jail chaplain for 10 years, right? And everybody says, oh, the system moves slow. Why is the system move slow? Is it because there's so many people, or is it because the system takes so long? Or is it a combination?
It's a combination, but if it's moving slow, with the exception of COVID, because everything's so backed up.
Well, right.
But putting COVID aside, it needs to move slow. The wheels of justice should move slow.
All right, tell people why.
The longer it goes on, well, for multitude of reasons. Sometimes there's discovery involved in these cases, in investigating the facts. Now, I can't necessarily per se say that about drunk drivings. Like they sort of are what they are.
Right, but
and
in
guess
criminal
what?
cases, though.
Well, drunk driving is criminal.
Oh, okay.
Right, Isaac?
Yeah.
Yeah, you drink.
Yeah, you drive.
Too much, drive. That's
that's a criminal case.
Right, drunk driving. All right, detection team, drunk driving. All right, but in any event, where were we? You're making me lose my train of thought again.
Why justice takes so long? Because a lot of people get mad about how long
those things churn and burn unless you're waiting for blood results to come back. But as it relates to the big cases, unless people want more lawyers and more judges and more prosecutors and all of that, there's only so much resources out there. And I think the system works very well. And the comment your buddy made to you, most people are frustrated going through the system in the first place. I've had friends complain, and I'm like, no, it's not a perfect system.
Right.
I believe it's the best one in the world, and I'd rather be presumed innocent than guilty.
Yeah, because like my brother, he just went through, he's trying to get his license back, lost his license, drunk driving, hit a first responder, blah, 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 blah. Gone through the whole process, they did the 72 weeks, yada, yada, yada. Had the blow and go, got the paperwork, got to write the letters and do all that stuff. And I think he just got his license back, but it was like a 2-year process. And he was very like, this is bull crap, and why does it take so long? And I didn't have an answer. Like, I wasn't sure what to say. I was like, I don't know. I've never had to go through it. I'm not sure.
All right, well, in your brother's case, COVID did slow down the Secretary of State's office in processing those. And there's thousands of them.
Okay.
And you have to get a date. They're about 3 months behind. And then with all those requirements, I love doing driving restoration. I like doing that more than the drunk driving defense.
Tell me why.
Well, on the drunk driving defense, assuming you're guilty, work out a plea deal, minimize the pain the judge is going to order and all of that stuff. But it sort of comes to an end after sentencing. And then people move on. But what people don't really recognize, and it's a result of a second offense within 7 years or 3 within 10. But in America, we're listening to all this constitutional rights, and we're having big national debates about what's constitutional and what's not.
Right.
Okay. But you take away somebody's driver's license.
That's tough, man.
To me, like, all right, and unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, it's a privilege. It's not a right. But especially living here in Michigan, where we're really not a big public transportation state. Yeah. No wheels, no job. And then if you do, like, all right, I'm still going to drive, and hopefully I don't get pulled over.
Right.
And it just keeps piling on.
And then you get busted. And
I believe that the Secretary of State's office is being, in the last 5 years, more positive in giving the licenses back, but it was draconian up until 3 or 4 years ago. And there's no rhyme or reason. I've walked in with people that are 100% card carrying, sober 3, 5, 7 years, and they're not getting it back.
Yeah.
And then you got the guy that's lying through his teeth, and he gets it back.
Yeah.
But
that's exactly what he said.
I will say this for a little shameless plug. I would never go into those driver's restoration hearings without a lawyer. Okay. First offense, drunk driving, low BAC. Everyone's got their barroom lawyer buddies that are going to say, like, hey, you can go in and get a plea deal. You don't need a lawyer. Yeah. Still don't like it because you're sending a message to the judge and you're not even hearing what you should hear as the defendant. And that's like about outpatient, being proactive, and really having the lawyer work through the problem. So if you're going to have a lawyer on a drunk driving or without a lawyer, you're not really, it's not so much even the deal, it's getting the good advice to help them see what the future holds. But the driving restoration, call me, need a lawyer. The other one, for a shameless plug, I think we're going to have a big issues with crime. We are having it. I mean, it's astronomical right now. I think we'll see some politicians start getting tough on it again. But some of the crime reform, especially here in Michigan, expungement. I do expungements.
That's for people that have one felony. Is that correct?
You know what? Go to Fausone-Bohn. Click on Mark Mandell. There's all kinds of articles and blogs. So, but can I just quickly get this out?
Yeah.
The expungement, just because technically there are forms out there that you could do it yourself, you still got to convince the judge. And people need to take advantage of these expungement laws. There's countless.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So
It is a
call
good
me
idea.
on the expungement.
All right, so if you got a pen, or remember, or you want to review this when we get back, the number for his office is 248-380-9976. That's 248-380-9976. Fausone-Bohn in Northville. And just look up Mark Mandell. You can Google that, and it'll click onto his site, and you can get a call. And thank you so much for coming in. Unfortunately,
Yeah, I loved
we
your
are
show.
out of time. It was a blast. That was a great story. I would love to have you back. You sit tight. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for watching. Please go to spiritualwarfareunit.com. Like, share, and subscribe. Help others help you. Have a great day. Bye now. You have a nonprofit in your area that's doing a lot of work that people should know about? Feel free to contact Spiritual Warfare Unit at 810-715-9319, and we would love to have them on to see what good they're doing in the community and find out their story. Thank you so much.
Spent so much time believing the lies. I knew I wasn't meant to live this way, but my walls came down and your love shone through. Now my life will never be the same. You love me too much and let me stay this way. Jesus, there's freedom in your name. You break every chain, oh Lord. 'Cause you are above every name, Jesus. Oh, you set me free. Now I live my life singing songs of praise, proclaiming everything you've done for me. 'Cause my walls came down when your love shone through, and now my life will never be the same. 'Cause you love me too much to let me stay this way.